team to watch is Denver. The Broncos, that secondary, Pat Surtain, like that group is special. And I think when you look at Bo Nix, he's a young quarterback. But damn, when he plays, he has no fear. And he does not care about going into Arrowhead, going into any arena, any stadium and saying, yeah, we can beat you guys. And that's what you love about them.
I think that the Denver Broncos are a team to be reckoned with. I think their defense is formidable. I think Bo Nix is that kind of dude. And as far as I'm concerned, they could possibly, Sean Payton coaching them, they could possibly make some noise.
So who is the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs? I'll even go as far as saying that I don't think it's just who's the biggest threat to them. It's who's the best team in the division. In the Broncos, they've got the best defense in football. I think we can pretty much all agree on that. Last season, it was phenomenal. Patrick Surtain led the way. Nick Bonito had a breakout season. They also had a couple of other studs as well. Riley Moss when he was healthy. You add in Jahdae Barron. I also really like Zach Allen as well. I think he's one of the more underrated players in football. The thing for the Broncos is that they didn't have a lot of flexibility financially because of the dead cap that they're still paying Russell Wilson. But it's another year that's gone by, and they went out there in free agency, and they fixed their biggest hole, which of course was stopping the run. So they go out there and they get Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw, two former Niners, because the Bills ran the football all over them, and Denver didn't even have a chance. So even though, yeah, I think they have a great defense, they had a clear hole, which they did patch up. But even beyond that, the offensive side of the football for the Broncos, they needed more players at the skill position. So Evan Ingram comes in. He's going to be a huge weapon for Knicks, especially down in the red zone. Of course, just running go routes. He's very good after the catch as well. Holds on to the football. What about Pat Bryant? A lot of people seem to think that he's going to be a steal. Of course, getting him in the second round. And then as well, R.J. Harvey, of course, coming out of UCF. I watched a couple of his games last season. I think he's a very powerful runner that can also catch the football out of the backfield. J.K. Dobbins adds in for depth. And then it's going to be a matter of what about like Jaleel McLaughlin? What can he give you? Can he catch the ball out of the backfield and make some plays? I think the Broncos are probably going to use 3 or 4 running backs. They're going to get creative here. And we also can't just not mention Courtland Sutton, who had a great year last year, and he's got some help around him too. And the offensive line remains probably the best in football. They were number 1 in terms of pass blocking. They were top 10 in terms of run blocking. So there's not a weakness. There's legitimately no weakness for Denver. The only concern, which it's laughable to even think this is a concern, but a lot of people on ESPN and Fox seem to think that the only way the Broncos aren't going to be able to hit their ceiling is if Bo Nix doesn't take that leap. But if Bo Nix is your doubt for the Broncos, then you're in a very good spot, because I thought he personally should have won Rookie of the Year. If I had a vote, I would have given it to him. As much as I do like Jaden Daniels and respect him, I think Nix was just more consistent. And I don't think it's a matter of who has more around them, because Knicks did have a good defense, which is the best. I would say an offensive line is the best thing a young quarterback can have, and then a good defense and then weapons. Bo Nix did have a lot of talent around him. But the difference is that, of course, you look at the start of the year where he starts in Seattle on the road, and he didn't turn the football over. He didn't take sacks. And I just think he was phenomenal. I mean, you talk about the AFC and all these deadly quarterbacks. Bo Nix was right up there with them. He played some high-level football, too. I think Jaden Daniels had bigger stretches, but just overall, who I thought had the best consistent season, I do think it was Bo Nix. And I'm excited to see what he can do in year 2. And that's the difference for me between a team like the Broncos and a lot of other teams like the Chargers and the Ravens, is Bo Nix is not afraid to go on the road and to take on Patrick Mahomes. We just saw, of course, towards the end of the season, the Broncos, they are against the Chiefs. Bo Nix gets them all the way down to Kansas City territory. Game-winning field goal should be a chip shot. And then the special teams collapses and they end up getting it blocked. If it hadn't been for that, Bo Nix would have gone on the road and beaten Patrick Mahomes. Now, albeit in the regular season, when we talk about, I'm not going to say Josh Allen because he actually did beat Patrick Mahomes this past season, but we talk about Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert. I mean, when are we ever mentioning them beating Patrick Mahomes? And Bo Nix, as a rookie, goes to Arrowhead. The Chiefs had literally been unbeaten. They were dominant, and the Broncos had them right there, and the special teams just wasn't able to get it done. And that was last year's Broncos team. This year's Broncos team is a lot better. It's significantly better. We talked about, of course, filling out every single hole, adding in more skill players, of course, on the outside, getting a better, more consistent run game. Defensively, stopping the run. The middle of the defense was definitely a concern. You can have a great defense, but if you have a clear hole on it, you're not a great defense. So the Broncos fixed that. And then, of course, as well, it's just going to be about Marvin Mims Jr. He had a breakout season towards the back end of last year. But can he consistently, for a full year, be able to do that? Great with the ball in his hands after the catch, as good as it gets in the NFL. I'd also like to see some of the other receivers be able to step up. I'm not asking Troy Franklin to be an every down type of guy, but can he continue to catch the ball deep? Bo Nix and him are going to have to connect on those plays, and it's going to help out the offense. And like Devon Veely and, again, Audric Estime, there's a lot of players who have potential, and I'd like to see them contribute something to Denver too, because I don't just look at the starters. I look at the second and the third unit, and you have to understand, especially if you're going to be named Daily Broncos or this or whatever, this like named after a team, you got to realize that depth is super important. Like PJ Locke, Jaquan McMillan, like those types of guys as well, like Chris Abrams-Drain. Top to bottom, this is one of the deeper teams in football, and that matters for an NFL season that is 17 games. And then you got to go to the playoffs, right? So Denver, they're in a great spot. They know that they have the talent, and it's not about Bo Nix versus Patrick Mahomes. It's about the Denver Broncos against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I like the odds for Denver. I think the team with the highest ceiling, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I think the team with the highest ceiling in this division is the Broncos. I know the Chiefs continue to go to Super Bowl after Super Bowl, but I don't think the Chiefs are going to be amazing next season. They'll be in the playoffs. They'll be competitive. I don't think they're winning this division. I do think they're going to start to regress. I absolutely do. I think the Super Bowl is sort of indicative of that. I get the Eagles were great, but the Chiefs, it's over for them. Maybe people will look back on this video and remember it and save it. I'm sure Chiefs fans are going to find this and bookmark what I'm saying and record it and things like that. I'm fine putting that on the air. I'm not ducking anything. I believe in the Denver Broncos. I thought last season they had a great chance to beat the Chiefs as well, and they did. It just came down to a special teams miscue, and they messed up, and the Chiefs had a great play on it. But this time around, they have that experience. The roster's upgraded. And Bo Nix actually has weapons around him. I mean, we're talking about Denver last season winning 10 games, going to the playoffs with a roster that had a great defense, but offensively was nothing special. Like it truly wasn't. The offensive line was great. Bo Nix is a stud, but they couldn't run the ball at all. They were one of the worst run defenses, which is insane to think about considering the offensive line was like ninth in run blocking. And outside of Cortland Sutton, nobody was making plays. They had the worst tight end group in all of football. Marvin Mims Jr. late in the season broke out, but he's not the type of guy that's going to beat you one-on-one. He's just wide receiver screens, and you could throw the ball up to him, and he can go and get it. We saw that, of course, against the Cincinnati Bengals in one of the better games of the year, like overtime thriller. So Denver, to me, is the best team on paper in the division, but obviously on paper doesn't mean anything. They have to go out and prove it. But I'm very comfortable saying that the Broncos are the best team in this division. I do think they will win the division, and I do think they're a Super Bowl contender. The Bills, the Ravens, the Texans, the Chiefs, those are the teams everyone's talking about, but they're going to be talking about the Denver Broncos very, very shortly here.